premise then that 2% of the people, of humans, think purely in terms of images. 25% of people think purely in terms of text or words, and that 75% roughly think in some combination, but it's weighted very heavily toward words. Words being speech, listening to documentaries, reading, computer, you know. Okay, so currently there's only a few places in the world, Holland and I think Germany, they're even looking at that. And they're looking at that because there's very little known about it. But if you think about the implications of it, particularly say in schools, which are floundering in terms of their cognitive abilities, schools everywhere, if they could figure out a way, say for instance, to teach younger children or high school kids, I don't know, how to think in terms of, more in terms of imagery, right, or symbols, or, you know, it doesn't have to be pictures, it can be symbols, or and you could develop that. Even if you develop that ability, say 10%, then that might have significant impact on the way that student or that individual could think. In other words, it could have big consequences on their ability to think, process information, and think for themselves.
Right.
Now, why the United States doesn't care about it, I don't know.
What? Yes.
You know, but if you think about it, just and don't get too involved, wrapped up into how you think, and you know, whether you think in images. I think in both myself.
Right. Well, I think
it's probably more weighted toward words, but irrespective of that, if you just look at those facts and you just say what would be the implications, what would be if you could just improve someone's ability to think by 10%, what would it do? Well, I mean, that would be probably more value than sending a kid to school full time.
Right. Right.
Because they're gonna mature and learn whether they're in school or not, but if you can teach them to think, improve their thinking capabilities, the thinking abilities, which would improve also their capacity, then the implications are huge. Yet because education is a regressive, very conservative, you know, people in education don't want to do things like that because they're protecting their turf. They're protecting what they know.
What they know.
So you're going to teach what you were taught to teach.
Well, that's all they know.
If your PhD is in education, then you're going to promote those systems of education whether they work or not. Now, what could in fact be, and I'm not saying that would make the total difference, but if you take, say, teaching children how to think in terms of imagery, along with maybe several other new ways of instruction, then quite possibly you could have a breakthrough in education, and what that would do would mean that your country would produce, through its school systems, children that were educated, had a superior education, and could think better than any other children in the world. And that would give you a huge competitive advantage. And some country may do that, whether it's Holland will do it, or Germany will do it, or Mexico, or the Philippines. It doesn't appear a country like the United States will do it.
Well, we know there are some studies here already that they have proven that art does help.
Well, but it's, you know,
a lot with their...
The thing is that it's a cognitive tool or a cognitive skill that's taught, and that would improve the ability to think, expand the ability to think, and that could have major implications. Maybe not just the imagery and text issue, but combined with some other things. And the country that figures it out is going to win the prize in this century, in the 21st century. And the countries that don't, like Mexico, that has a horrendous education, or the United States, where the education is at best considered poor, then is not going to get behind it. If a country like China figured that out and put it in place, then they would just be, you know, hard to say what the potential would be there.